The lights of Hollywood have always shone brightly, but the shadow lurking behind the scenes may be even more intriguing. Randy Quaid, a renowned actor, made disturbing accusations about a secret organization called the Star Whackers, which he believes is behind mysterious deaths, financial ruin, and the manipulation of major celebrities' legacies. Although his claims were dismissed by many as delusions, the strange patterns he pointed out evoke an unease that is hard to ignore. Could it be that the stars we so admire are controlled and discarded like pieces in a larger game? More importantly, how closely do Quaid's theories connect with the dark realities of the entertainment industry? Welcome to another night where mysteries never sleep. I am Midnight, and this is 7 Nights. Before we begin, I'd like to ask for your help. Like the video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Just one click makes a huge difference for YouTube to show these videos to more people, and for me to keep bringing this content to you. I'm counting on you. Let's dive into the video. Randy Quaid was a familiar face in American cinema, recognized for roles that ranged between humor and drama. An award winner and critically acclaimed, he seemed to have solidified his place in the industry. However, in 2010, the actor made a shocking decision. He fled to Canada with his wife, Evie Quaid, claiming their lives were in danger. This was no ordinary escape. According to Quaid, they were being targeted by a secret organization known as the Star Whackers. Who doesn't remember him from Independence Day? He was that quirky uncle type, the one you'd find entertaining at family lunches. And then, out of nowhere, he becomes the star of a cinematic-level escape. Sounds like a movie plot, doesn't it? But it's real. Quaid's first public statement about the group was met with disbelief and ridicule. He alleged that the organization was systematically eliminating celebrities, disguising the deaths as accidents, suicides, or overdoses. To support his claims, Quaid pointed to emblematic cases such as Heath Ledger, who died of a prescription drug overdose, and David Carradine, who was found in strange circumstances in a hotel in Thailand. In Quaid's view, these deaths were no accidents. Quaid also claimed that he and his wife were direct targets of the organization. He cited episodes of financial sabotage, loss of properties, and predatory contracts, which he said were part of a campaign to destroy them. Details included hacked bank accounts and inexplicably growing debt. All of this culminated in a sense of being surrounded. The decision to flee to Canada came after several attempts to report their suspicions. Authorities, however, did not give credence to their allegations. In the United States, Quaid was labeled as mentally unstable. Yet this narrative raised an important question. Why would a successful, established actor risk his reputation with such extreme claims? In Canada, Randy and Evie sought political asylum, which Quaid justified as the only way to escape the threats they claimed to face. The couple was even arrested by Canadian authorities on charges of illegal entry into the country, but they continued to insist that their situation was more complex than it seemed. Were they truly being persecuted, or were they simply in a state of paranoia? Despite the controversies, Quaid's story wasn't forgotten. He drew attention to patterns that, under closer scrutiny, seemed curious. He pointed out that many renowned artists experienced inexplicable financial collapses or were forced to sign contracts that damaged their careers in the long run. Was this a coincidence, or was there something larger behind these tragedies? Hollywood, after all, has always been surrounded by rumors of excessive control over celebrities' lives. From the studio system of the Golden Age to the present day, abusive contracts and image manipulation are documented practices. Could it be that an even more sinister force operates behind the scenes? Another point that raised suspicion was the media's behavior. Quaid's accounts were almost unanimously ridiculed, which, for some, seemed like an attempt to silence him. If there was any truth to his claims, why not investigate thoroughly instead of publicly discrediting him? The industry and press's reaction only fueled speculation among those who believed Quaid had hit a sensitive nerve. In his statements, Quaid made a striking declaration. Hollywood is controlled by corrupt bankers and lawyers who destroy lives and profit from the deaths of their targets. The phrase resonated within conspiracy communities, which began analyzing similar patterns in other celebrity deaths and financial declines. The question of his mental state, however, remained unresolved. While critics insisted his claims were paranoid delusions, supporters argued that Hollywood's history of scandals and financial manipulations lent credibility to his accusations. After all, would it be so far-fetched to imagine that an industry worth billions could be the stage for such dark intrigues? Randy Quaid didn't stop talking about the star whackers, even years after his escape. He insisted that his intention wasn't to draw attention to himself, but to warn other celebrities about the dangers he believed lurked beneath the industry's glamour. He saw Hollywood as a web of control where few had real freedom. Yet his words left a trail of doubt. How could one prove the existence of such a secret and powerful organization? And what if the star whackers were merely a metaphor for something larger and harder to pinpoint? Quaid never provided concrete evidence, but his account became a starting point for questioning the true cost of fame. At the heart of Randy Quaid's claims was a string of celebrity deaths that he considered anything but accidental. Among the most cited examples, Heath Ledger and David Carradine held prominent positions. Both were recognizable figures in Hollywood, yet their deaths, despite official explanations, left lingering doubts that were never fully dispelled. Heath Ledger, star of acclaimed films such as The Dark Knight, was found dead in 2008 in his New York apartment. The official cause: accidental overdose of prescription medications. The investigation concluded that a mix of drugs for insomnia, anxiety, and pain contributed to his death. Ledger was on the rise, and his performance as the Joker placed him among the greatest names in cinematic history. But Quaid suggested that this rise might have unsettled powerful forces, alleging that Ledger was being financially manipulated before his death. David Carradine, known for his role in the series Kung Fu and films like Kill Bill, was found dead in a hotel in Thailand in 2009. The circumstances were strange. His body was naked and bound, leading police to declare the cause as autoerotic asphyxiation. However, his family contested the official version, requesting an independent investigation. According to reports, Carradine was involved in projects that could have upset powerful figures in the industry. Quaid linked his death to the star whackers theory, suggesting it was a disguised murder. These cases weren't the only ones to raise questions. Although Quaid didn't mention Michael Jackson directly, conspiracy theories surrounding his death followed a similar pattern. Jackson died in 2009 from a propofol overdose administered by his personal doctor. The doctor was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, but many speculate that Jackson was under pressure from abusive contracts and insurmountable debts before his death. Another name that frequently appears in discussions about Hollywood conspiracies is Brittany Murphy. Oh, Brittany Murphy, young, talented, with that spark where you think she's going places. And then, out of nowhere, she and her husband die in practically the same way. It's the kind of thing that makes you scratch your head and think, there's more to this. The actress passed away in 2009 at age 32, officially from pneumonia complicated by anemia and drug intoxication. 5 months later, her husband, Simon Monjack, also died under similar circumstances. Fans and independent investigators raised doubts about how two people could succumb to such similar causes in such a short period. Some suggested that Murphy knew something she wasn't supposed to. The repetition of patterns caught attention. Young stars on the rise with flourishing careers who died unexpectedly and often under controversial circumstances. Quaid wasn't the only one to notice. Theories connecting these deaths to financial interests or image manipulation became common in online discussion forums. After all, how could an industry worth billions allow its most valuable assets, its celebrities, to escape its control? An intriguing aspect is the profit that the death of a star can generate. After Heath Ledger's death, the film The Dark Knight grossed over $1 billion, and his portrayal of the Joker was immortalized. Michael Jackson, who faced financial struggles during his life, saw his music and albums skyrocket in sales after his death, generating fortunes for his heirs and associated companies. This pattern raises a disturbing question. Could the death of a celebrity be more valuable than their life? Beyond direct profit, there is also control of the narrative. After death, studios, record labels, and PR agents have the freedom to shape the star's image according to their interests. Scandals are silenced, legacies are constructed, and the public image is carefully managed to maximize profit. This level of narrative control reinforces the idea that, in Hollywood, not everything is as it seems. Many dismiss these connections as unfounded theories, but the patterns are hard to ignore. The high rate of premature deaths among celebrities, combined with the unusual circumstances of many of these fatalities, continues to fuel questions. Coincidences or not, the perception that something is wrong persists. Another intriguing question is the role of the media in these events. As in Quaid's case, suspicions raised by fans or family members are often quickly dismissed. Mainstream media rush to provide official explanations, while alternative investigations are ridiculed or ignored. This stance raises an inevitable question. Is the media complicit in covering up uncomfortable truths? Despite official explanations, doubts remain. Why do so many celebrity deaths follow such a similar pattern? And why do these stories often result in astronomical profits for those involved in the industry? Quaid, though discredited, managed to plant the seed of doubt. The case of Brittany Murphy, in particular, remains a reminder that not all questions find answers. The erratic behavior of public figures may result from the constant pressure of fame, but what if it is also the result of something more sinister, something hidden in plain sight? The mysterious deaths of celebrities continue to intrigue and unsettle, reinforcing the sense that, in Hollywood, appearances are often deceiving. Randy Quaid didn't just accuse the star whackers of disguised murders. He claimed that this organization also attacked celebrities in another way, through financial control. According to him, abusive contracts, economic sabotage, and even property theft were used to destabilize public figures. This type of manipulation, Quaid said, was not rare in Hollywood. In fact, it was part of a systematic practice to ensure that stars remained dependent on the industry. The actor reported being a victim of a series of inexplicable financial events. He and his wife, Evie, claimed to have lost valuable properties through legal disputes they considered fraudulent. Additionally, debts suddenly grew, and contracts signed during his career appeared to contain predatory clauses that they hadn't noticed before. Quaid suggested that these methods were not isolated incidents and that other celebrities faced similar problems. The idea of financial control in Hollywood is not new. During the golden age of the industry, studios had absolute power over their actors. Long and strict contracts kept stars under control, and disobeying the studios could mean the end of a career. While the studio system has officially disappeared, abusive practices seem to have persisted in different forms. Cases like Britney Spears illustrate how a celebrity's financial life can be monitored and controlled by third parties. For 13 years, the singer was under a conservatorship that restricted even her personal decisions, while large sums of money continued to be moved in her name. Although Britney has no connection to the star whackers, her case shows how public figures can lose control over their own finances, even while continuing to generate fortunes. Quaid pointed out another curious pattern: the financial collapse of celebrities at critical moments. Often, these figures are placed in situations where they must accept disadvantageous contracts or inexplicably accumulate debt. This practice, he argued, was not coincidental but part of a strategy to create dependence. After all, how can one resist the pressure of an entire industry when their financial stability depends on it? Some examples of financial manipulation in Hollywood are widely known. In the 1990s, the girl group TLC revealed that despite selling millions of albums, they were bankrupt due to contracts that allocated only a fraction of the profits to the artists. Man, if even TLC, who were topping the charts, were struggling because of abusive contracts, imagine how many other artists went through the same. Hollywood can be a dream, but it's also full of nightmares. In cinema, reports of actors being cheated by agents or producers are frequent. Is this a reflection of common practices or part of something more coordinated? Michael Jackson's story is also used as an example by theorists who believe in financial manipulations. Before his death, Jackson was involved in a series of legal battles and faced significant debt, despite generating billions of dollars during his career. Interestingly, after his death, his assets began generating record profits. Was his difficult financial situation orchestrated to facilitate control over his legacy? Quaid claimed that the star whackers also used legal disputes as a tool for sabotage. He reported that his properties were seized through lawsuits he considered fabricated, leaving him without the resources to adequately defend himself. The practice of using the law as a weapon, known as lawfare, is a widely discussed concept, especially in cases involving public figures. The reliance on lawyers, agents, and producers in Hollywood creates an environment where financial control can be easily exercised. With contracts full of complex clauses and little room for contestation, celebrities often find themselves trapped in relationships that do not benefit their careers. This scenario is fertile ground for exploitation, something Quaid described as intentional and orchestrated. But why would the star whackers, or any other group, want to financially destroy their stars? Quaid suggested that this was part of a cycle of control. A celebrity financially ruined has no choice but to continue producing for the industry, accepting increasingly worse conditions. Additionally, financial ruin could justify other actions, such as contract terminations or even physical elimination. This financial control is often concealed by public narratives that place the blame on the celebrity themselves. Scandals of excessive spending or poor investments are frequently used to explain economic collapses, diverting focus from possible manipulations. This reinforces the idea that the public image of stars is carefully shaped, both in life and after death. Over the years, other public figures have raised suspicions about abusive financial practices in Hollywood. Marlon Brando, for example, accused studios of stealing royalties and manipulating profits. He argued that surviving in the industry required accepting disadvantageous deals that often only benefited major conglomerates. Despite evidence of financial abuse in the industry, Quaid's allegations about the star whackers remain controversial. Without concrete evidence, many have dismissed his stories as paranoia. However, given Hollywood's history of predatory practices, his accusations seem less improbable than they might initially appear. Financial control and sabotage are not just individual problems for celebrities, but reflect a larger system where power is concentrated in the hands of a few. Randy Quaid may not have convinced everyone of the existence of the star whackers, but his story raises a crucial question. To what extent do the stars we admire truly have control over their own lives? For many, the death of a celebrity marks the end of a career. But in Hollywood, the passing of a star often transforms into a lucrative event. Sad but true, in Hollywood, even death has a price. And sometimes it's worth more than life. It's like turning tragedy into marketing. Pretty sinister, right? Randy Quaid believed that the star whackers not only benefited from the physical disappearance of public figures, but also manipulated their images posthumously to maximize financial gains and control narratives. One notable example is Heath Ledger. Before his death, Ledger was rising to fame with his role as the Joker in The Dark Knight. After his passing, the actor's image was carefully curated to emphasize his commitment to the role, with stories suggesting that the intensity of his performance contributed to his emotional instability. While these narratives remain unconfirmed, they help turn Ledger into an icon, boosting the film's impact and consequently its profits. Michael Jackson is another case frequently cited by theorists. Before his death, he faced legal and financial controversies that tarnished his reputation. After his passing, his music returned to the charts, and his legacy was strategically rehabilitated. Documentaries, tributes, and posthumous releases generated billions of dollars. Critics argue that this image restoration was a calculated operation to reinstate the value of his brand. Quaid suggested that this posthumous control is not merely a byproduct of the system, but an intentional tactic. The death of a celebrity eliminates unpredictable variables, such as scandals or contractual disputes, allowing those responsible for their image to exploit their legacy without restriction. This practice raises the question, to what extent can a star's death be more profitable than their life? Another controversial case is Kurt Cobain, lead singer of Nirvana. His death was officially recorded as a suicide, but over the years, theories questioning this version have emerged. After his passing, Cobain became a symbol of rebellion and authenticity, an icon of counterculture. His image has been widely leveraged in products, documentaries, and campaigns, reinforcing his legendary status. The manipulation of an image is not limited to physical death. Marilyn Monroe, for instance, had her personal life transformed into a myth after her passing. Monroe has been portrayed as a tragic figure, exploiting her vulnerability and mystery. This narrative ensured decades of cultural relevance and significant profits for those who own the rights to her image. Posthumous contracts, known as immortality contracts, are a common practice in the industry. These documents ensure that even after a celebrity's death, their image, voice, and works can be used commercially. The use of technology, such as holograms and artificial intelligence, has further expanded the scope of this exploitation. This creates a scenario where control over a celebrity doesn't end with their life. A recent example is the use of holograms in posthumous shows. Tupac Shakur, who died in 1996, appeared at a music festival in 2012 through a hologram. Whitney Houston had an entire tour based on holographic projections of her performances. While many fans appreciate these tributes, critics argue that such practices dehumanize artists, reducing them to products. For theorists, this posthumous manipulation reinforces the idea that celebrities are seen as financial assets, not as people. By controlling the narrative, those managing their careers can shape legacies according to their own interests, minimizing damage and maximizing profits. But this raises another disturbing question. Are these narratives used to cover up secrets or the real circumstances of their deaths? Media coverage plays a crucial role in this process. After a celebrity's death, major media outlets quickly establish the official narrative. Alternative versions, raised by fans or family members, are often ridiculed or dismissed. This creates an almost insurmountable barrier to deeper questioning of the actual circumstances. Despite the criticism, the practice of manipulating posthumous images is widely accepted by the industry and the public. Death turns stars into legends, and legends sell. But acceptance of this process doesn't mean it's harmless. For critics, there is a thin line between honoring and exploiting, and this line is often crossed in the name of profit. The case of Amy Winehouse illustrates this clearly. After her death in 2011, the singer went from being a troubled artist to a cultural icon. Documentaries and projects about her life highlighted her talents, but also romanticized her downfall, perpetuating a tragic image that, for many, did not represent who she truly was. This reconstruction of the posthumous narrative is an example of how control can irreversibly shape public perception. Randy Quaid never presented definitive evidence to support his accusations against the Star Whackers, but his claims about posthumous narrative control raised a valid point. To what extent are the stories we know about deceased celebrities true? Or are they carefully constructed versions meant to distract us from a darker reality? Randy Quaid's allegations about the Star Whackers paved the way for broader discussions about other conspiracies associated with the entertainment industry. While Quaid focused on financial sabotage, image manipulation, and suspicious deaths, many saw parallels between his theory and older conspiracies that circulate in Hollywood, such as MKUltra mind control, the Illuminati, and even alleged ritualistic sacrifices. One of the points most frequently connected to Quaid's claims is the MKUltra program, conducted by the CIA in the 1950s and 1960s. Officially discontinued, this program aimed to test methods of mind control using techniques such as hypnosis, hallucinogenic drugs, and psychological manipulation. Although initially directed towards military purposes, declassified documents revealed that artists and public figures were targeted by these experiments. The connection to Hollywood seems to lie in the theories that celebrities are shaped and manipulated using similar techniques to remain useful to the interests of large corporations. Singer Britney Spears, for example, has been the subject of speculation regarding mind control due to her erratic behavior during her conservatorship. Fans and theorists pointed to gestures, symbols, and statements suggesting that she was trapped under some kind of external control. Although there is no concrete evidence linking Spears to MKUltra, the case reinforces the idea that celebrities might be manipulated in ways that go beyond the obvious. Another theory frequently associated with Hollywood is that of the Illuminati, a secret society that, according to theorists, controls global events and uses celebrities as tools to influence the masses. The symbolic use of eyes, triangles, and controlled gestures in music videos and performances is often pointed to as evidence of artists' participation in this supposed scheme. Names like Beyoncé, Jay-Z, and Lady Gaga are frequently mentioned in theories claiming that these stars are part of a larger and more influential group. These connections may seem exaggerated, but they raise an interesting question. Why does Hollywood, with its enormous cultural influence, attract so many theories suggesting a greater control behind the scenes? Is it mere coincidence, or do the documented practices of the industry, such as abusive contracts and image manipulation, reinforce these ideas? Randy Quaid mentioned an aspect that resonates with these conspiracies: the concept of disposable pawns. According to him, many celebrities are used as long as they generate profit and discarded when they cease to be useful or begin to resist the system. This pattern is often observed in other theories, such as those involving ritualistic sacrifices. The central idea is that the death or downfall of a public figure serves as a symbolic price, to maintain the power of elitist groups. The case of Whitney Houston, for example, is cited in discussions about sacrifices. Whitney died under circumstances that many consider suspicious, in a bathtub during a highly visible event. Coincidentally, her daughter, Bobby Christina Brown, also died under similar circumstances a few years later. For theorists, these patterns of family tragedies are not mere coincidences, but part of something deeper and more sinister. The manipulation of narratives by the media is also a frequently explored point. According to theorists, the press acts as a tool to steer the public towards accepting official explanations and discrediting any alternatives. This type of control reinforces the idea of a coordinated effort to protect larger interests, hiding potentially harmful truths for powerful corporations or individuals. In addition to deaths, Quaid's theories resonate in the way public images of stars are manipulated. The case of Judy Garland, the star of The Wizard of Oz, is emblematic. She was subjected to extreme treatments by the studios, including forced diets, medication, and long working hours. While her case is an older example, it illustrates the type of control that, according to theorists, continues to be exerted in Hollywood. The use of symbols and subliminal messages in media is also frequently pointed to as evidence of conspiracies. Movies, music videos, and even commercials are meticulously analyzed for patterns that theorists claim reveal hidden agendas. These symbols, such as the all-seeing eye or repetitive gestures, are interpreted as coded messages for a specific audience. But are these connections real, or merely the result of an overly creative interpretation? While theories about mind control, the Illuminati, and sacrifices may seem far from reality, the history of abusive practices in Hollywood gives them a foundation to exist. The constant pressure on celebrities, the incessant media surveillance, and restrictive contracts create an environment where control seems to be the norm rather than the exception. The star whackers, as described by Quaid, can be seen as a more direct representation of these forces. Rather than hooded conspirators, what he seems to describe is a coordinated system of power where public figures are shaped, exploited, and discarded when necessary. This system, whether real or imagined, continues to fuel discussions about the true cost of fame. Could these connections be merely the product of human creativity, seeking patterns in unrelated events? Or is there indeed a network of larger interests controlling the lives and careers of Hollywood stars? Quaid may never have had the opportunity to prove his claims, but his story has become a starting point for questioning what really happens behind the scenes of the industry. When Randy Quaid brought his claims about the star whackers to public attention, the reaction was immediate and polarizing. The media ridiculed his statements, and he was widely described as mentally unstable. Articles and television programs focused more on his flight to Canada and the controversial circumstances surrounding his career than on the content of his accusations. Yet behind the widespread skepticism, a growing group of people began paying attention to his words. For critics, Quaid's claims were nothing more than the reflection of a troubled mind under pressure. The decline of his career and financial problems were seen as factors contributing to a psychological breakdown, leading him to create a conspiratorial narrative to justify his difficulties. This interpretation, widely disseminated by traditional media, was enough to discredit him in the eyes of the general public. On the other hand, conspiracy communities on the internet began treating Quaid as an almost prophetic figure. Forums and social networks started discussing the connections between his claims and observed patterns in Hollywood, from premature celebrity deaths to financial control practices. Quaid became a symbol of resistance for those who believe that the entertainment industry hides dark truths under its glamorous facade. Reactions to the star whackers theory also revealed something intriguing about the public, a growing distrust of power structures. In the years following Quaid's statements, cases like the #MeToo movement brought to light abusive and manipulative practices in Hollywood, reinforcing the idea that the industry is far from transparent. While the star whackers are a specific theory, the broader context of allegations against powerful figures made Quaid's words resonate differently over time. Another factor that contributed to the impact of Quaid's statements was the repetitive pattern of tragedies in the lives of celebrities. The public began to question whether the relentless pressure and oppressive conditions of fame were, in themselves, a form of systematic destruction. Even if the star whackers do not exist literally, the idea that Hollywood operates as a machine consuming its own icons seems more plausible with each new case. The cultural impact of Quaid's claims was not limited to conspiracy discussions. Films, series, and documentaries began exploring themes that echoed what he described. Productions like The Truman Show and Black Mirror took on a new layer of meaning, while stories about manipulation, control, and exploitation in high-visibility environments became increasingly popular. But the questions remain. Why did the media disqualify Quaid so quickly? If his claims were entirely unfounded, why was there no deeper investigation to definitively disprove them? And most importantly, how many similar cases go unnoticed or are deliberately silenced to protect the interests of influential figures in the industry? It's curious, isn't it? When someone says something that pokes at a system, the first reaction isn't to investigate, but to discredit. Like an emergency button for the industry. Discredit and move on. The answers to these questions may never come, but the impact of Quaid's accusations continues to be felt. His story has become a symbol of the struggle of individuals against larger, more powerful systems. And even though his claims were ridiculed, they paved the way for more people to question the entertainment industry's behind-the-scenes workings and the mechanisms that control its stars. Randy Quaid's allegations about the star whackers may seem exaggerated, but they raise questions that continue to echo in Hollywood. The idea that celebrities are controlled, manipulated, and discarded by larger forces may sound like fiction, but the industry's history shows that abusive practices and financial manipulation are more common than we would like to admit. The real mystery may lie in the fine line that separates conspiracy from reality. This story is just one piece, and one day we might see the whole puzzle. If this made you think, subscribe and like the video. It helps the channel grow. Don't forget to share. After all, more voices mean more discoveries.